Hey guys, this is Melissa with the Citrus Twist design team, and I have a quick process video to share with you today with the July 2013 kits. And I'm starting off by going through what looks like a big pile of scraps, but I'll explain what that is in a minute, and choosing the ones that I think are going to work best with this photo. These are two of my nieces, and there's a lot of red and some green in this picture, so I'm going to try to choose colors that match that, either coordinate or complement. And this is something that I usually do at the start of every layout. I'll just go through all of the options I have. If it's a kit, I'll go through all the papers and embellishments and just pick out pieces that I think I might use. Everything probably won't make it onto the layout, but at least I won't forget to use things as I start the process. So I've picked up one of the green doilies. That's from the Project Life kit this month, and right now I'm going through all these little vellum die cuts. This photo was taken on vacation, actually not vacation, but it was on travel. So that little geotag and maybe some of these travel elements will work pretty well with it. And you can see that I just cut pieces directly off of packaging. I cut out two flare badges that I might use, and now I'm cutting out a small family word from the Jelly Bean Soup Wise Words in the kit. With self-adhesive pieces like these, I like to go ahead and just cut them out so that I can move them around the page without sticking them in place. So you'll see me doing the same thing to this Fancy Pants sticker sheet. I like this Oh Yeah sticker, and there's also a small star sticker that matches that Fancy Pants piece of paper that was cut into a 4x3 shape for the Project Life kit. So I'm just going to continue pulling things out. I've got the Smile and Say Cheese, that's from October Afternoon's Travel Girl. And now I'll move on to my final tray of embellishments. This is where I've thrown all of the pieces from the miscellany pack from October Afternoon's Travel Girl. And you can see I've already pulled out the red cruise ship die cut. And this photo is not from a cruise, but I think it's okay to use things, not for their intended theme, especially when you're layering. Things tend to get jumbled up and covered up anyway. So I've pulled it out strictly for the color. It'll probably get date stamped or something. And with that, I've gone through all of the trays, and I'll start looking through the smaller pieces in the kit. When I'm working with a kit, I like to keep all the pieces and little bits together in the trays and bowls that you've seen on my desk. I bought these at Target last summer. When they have all their summer melamine out, they actually have the seasons out, so if you'd like to try something like that, it's on the shelf right now. But it's a great way to keep a kit together while you're working on it. You can spread all the trays out all over your work surface as you're working, but then quickly throw everything back together and stack it back up when you need to clean up. And like I said, I've been doing this for about a year, and it's worked really well for me. So I will start this page actually without a background, and I'm right now just trying different layers. I definitely like that doily and the Smile and Say Cheese and that star card and the bit of red, but you can see I'm kind of struggling with what to put behind all of that. The wood grain doily would work well, but it was just kind of overpowering because it was such a large pattern, so I decided on that navy and aqua dot instead. And had to go search out my letter stickers because I had not put them back in the tray last time. I'm going to spell out the title, which is Cousin Time. And these are my two nieces, so they're cousins. And I'm just going to spell it out on these clear plastic rulers. Now, like you saw me cutting pieces out of their packaging so that I could move self-adhesive pieces around, I do the same thing with titles. I spell them out on these clear plastic rulers. Again, these are from Office Depot. I do have some from Target. I swear all roads lead to Target. And I'm just going to spell out the title Cousin Time so that I can move the title around the page and figure out the best placement for it before I actually stick it down on my layout. So I've just stuck the very bottom of the letters, and you can see I'm kind of thinking that it's going to go on the bottom right. And with that in place, it's time to choose a background paper. So you saw at the beginning of the video that I had some cut up papers, and I also had this stack of full sheets of paper. And as soon as I get a kit, I immediately go through all of the papers and decide which ones I either don't want to cut up right away or the ones I want to use as backgrounds. And that's the stack I'm going through now, just pulling out some potential candidates for the background. And first I'm going to try this Heidi Swap grid print. This is from her Serendipity collection. And I like the neutral look of this one, but I think it fades the colors out just a little bit. So I'm going to try this Craft. And I really, really like the way the colors pop on that Craft. So I think we're going to go with that one for the background page for this layout. Although I will go back and forth one or two more times just to make sure. And now it's time to add some more layers in. I started this layout off the background page so that I wouldn't have a background color limiting my choice of layers. But now I see I need a few more pieces in to perhaps ground things out. And I'm trying to go with that wood grain doily again, and it's just not working. So I'll move away from that for just a few seconds and put an embellishment or two in place, like that cruise ship tag, and maybe start planning out what layers I want to put across the top of my page. But as I'm working, I spotted some papers that might work. And that would be this craft chevron you're going to see in just a second. That's from Crepe Papers to the Pier. Now, putting craft with craft normally might not work, but since it's a light and a dark, we have good contrast there, but we don't have a warm tone paper taking away from it. And you can see I have several pieces, or several different sizes of pieces of this craft paper. And that's because all of those papers that I decide that I don't want to use as backgrounds or not cut up right away, I do cut up into boxes and strips and different size pieces. And there are standard size pieces that I know I'll usually use on a layout. And I find that it really speeds up my process if I go ahead and just cut most of the papers in a kit up, because then I have a pile of pieces to choose from and I can just pick them up, try them in place, and layer them up. I first got the idea to do this in a class I took from Shamel Lane called The Perfect Collection, and her reason for cutting up papers is completely different than mine, but it's something that's really worked for me, so I thought I would share it here today. So you can see I've decided on layers for the top of the page, and I'm going with two colors, that navy and the red, to repeat both of those patterns that are in the lower section of layers. And now I'm going to start pulling out dimensional items. One of the tricks to layering is to have different shapes going on all over the place. Layers can start to look like a pile of boxes, which basically they are until you start to add some dimension and go outside of those lines. So I'll add things like that cruise ship tag and the doily and brads and scripty words that you'll see in a little bit that will help add some depth and dimension to your layers. So I think I'm going to put that family script word, that's again the jelly bean soup one, at the top. And I'm working with just little clusters in a visual triangle around my photo. So you can see also I have a visual triangle of aqua. I have the doily, which is a slightly different shade, but it still works. The title, and that family word. And so now I'm going to try to work in visual triangles of other colors around those same sections. First, I'm going to staple all these layers down. Now, I got this trick from Lilith Eccles in one of her videos. She uses a long reach stapler to attach all of her layers down, which leaves the edges free to be popped up and allows you to quickly staple or to adhere all of your layers down without having to take your page apart and put it back together. I've put dimensional adhesive on the back of my photo to also give it some depth. And now I'm going to start sticking the rest of these elements in place. I also like to add some dimensional adhesive behind the layers on my page. So you'll see me just pop them up and add, these are Scotch foam tabs. And I really like these because they're not quite as thick as some of the pop dots that you can get. They will actually smush down while they're in your album, but pop right back up into place whenever you open it up or take the layout out. I'm not quite sure we can get them now. I bought a whole pile of them on clearance at Target. I mean, where else? And I'm kind of hoping the supply that I bought is going to last for a little while. Another thing that I like to do to add dimension is to go in by hand and slightly curl up the edges of these pieces of paper. At first, I didn't actually think when I first started doing this that the papers would actually stay popped up like that, but I'm surprised that they do. I've had some layouts in my album that I've done this to, several years ago, and they still have that little bit of extra dimension to them. So it's a really quick and easy way to go back and add a little more interest to your pages. Okay, almost time to stitch everything down, but first I need to stick this little wise word down. And it was a bit of a pickle to get it off of the sheet. It's really delicate, but I love the way it looks, so totally worth it. So I've got the family stuck down and I need to dot the I. You do not want to know how many times I've forgotten to dot my I's, especially in my titles, after I have them stuck on the ruler. So let's see if I remember to do it this time. You can see I just stick the tops of the letters down and then gently pull the ruler out from under them. And now, yep, we're going to remember to get the I's, and these things are tiny but not terribly difficult to stick on. And I think I'll go ahead and add these small buttons and brads and things in place before I add my stitching. Sometimes I stitch before, sometimes after, it just depends kind of on my mood of the day, really. So I'm, again, like I said earlier, trying to create some visual triangles. So I have 3 pieces of yellow laid out right now. I have navy in several places, and I'll go ahead and add my journaling in. Because journaling as a design element also adds weight and takes up space on your page, and it's a good idea to have all of those things in place before you add your final layer of embellishment. Alright, so the journaling is all finished, so now I really can stick all of these things back in place. And knowing where the journaling was gave me an idea for where to put these tiny embellishments down at the base of my title so that I could kind of round everything out and make it balanced. So I'm using some glue dots to adhere down the button and the asterisk wood veneer. And now I use my We Are Memory Keepers paper piercer to make holes for the brads. And I don't use the brad setter part of it. It's easier for me just to use my fingernails, but that is kind of a nifty part of the tool as well. Just stick all 3 of those in place, and maybe that star sticker, and at the last minute I decide no, I really don't like that, so we'll leave it off. Sometimes you can go one piece too far. And to finish things off, some of these enamel dots. These are from one of the Teresa Collins collections, and again, just adding things to make a visual triangle. I've added my machine stitching, and now it's time to stamp the date. I added my stitching off camera because my sewing machine is across the room, hoping to have a new desk set up soon so that I can actually do that on film as well. But I just use a normal needle and a normal sewing machine. And when I'm finished stitching, I will just pull all of the threads through the back of my layout and clip them off. I don't even tape them off, I just clip them, and if they go all the way to the edge, I just clip the edge. And there we have the finished page. I'll finish things off with a photograph of the finished product and also a few close-ups so you can see some of the detail and dimension in those layers. I'd like to thank everybody for watching today, and I hope that everyone has a great week.